Welcome to Weekend Night Live, hosted by Samuel Jacobs Abbey, where we play music, talk shows, and interviews on Be Inspired Podcast Network. Stay tuned and keep your dial on www.beinspiredpodcast.com. Don't forget to stay connected, be inspired, be unique, and be different.
Hello, my name is Quan Green, and I would love to share some products that I found that are very beneficial to not only my body, but I'm sure that they would really help your body. I found out that a lot of us are impacted and we need to be detoxed, and I found some wonderful products that will safely detox you and help you to eliminate the waste and feel good about yourself. We also have products that will help grow your hair and give your skin more vibrant radiance and suppleness and help with wrinkles. I also have products that will help with joint pain as well as help you to lose weight. These products are all natural, therefore you don't have to worry about putting something in your body that's going to add problems to the problems that you may already be facing. So if you're interested, please give me a call at 706-426-1471, or you can email me at preciousjewel492@gmail.com. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Wamaya, Wamaya, don't you? 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 Wamaya, Wamaya, don't you?
Hi, my name is Samuel Jacobs Abbey, and I'm the host of Be Inspired with the Weekend Night Live with Samuel Jacobs Abbey on Be Inspired Podcast Network. I just want to invite you and your family to tune in every Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time and also at 7 p.m. GMT for those across the Atlantic Ocean to tune in to listen to inspiring voices, to listen to our interviews, individuals who have excelled in different forms of life. We bring them so they will be able to share their stories, and we know that their stories will have an effect on you. On Being Inspired Podcast Network, our mission and our goal is to empower people from around the world who have attained a certain height and sharing their stories to make a social change implication. Social change is very important, and it is important that individuals, families, societies, and leadership spend time to acquire knowledge and skills to help formulate policies and ideas to help shape their communities. That is the more reason why I want to invite you again to tune in every Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time and also at 7:30 GMT on Be Inspired Podcast Network. You can catch us up on www.beinspiredpodcast.network, or you can also join us on our Facebook at Be Inspired Podcast Network, and we can have fun. Once again, tune in and have fun. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm excited to welcome all of you to Be Inspired Podcast Network, and we are all set for our show today. So today, Africa is laced with some of the most obstinate conflicts, most of them constructed from differences in religion and ethnic identities, religious and ethnic nationalism that has led to several conflicts and struggle of power from around the world. the unequal allocation of resources, citizenship issues, state collapses, economic decline, and ethno-religious clashes has created troubles for around the world. Nigeria has pushed hither and thither by a recurrent crisis of national, regional, and state problems, particularly in the north central area in Nigeria. Today, folks from around the world, I am excited to introduce Job David Ayuba, who is a social innovator and a Barack Obama YALIRLC fellow. He is the founder of the Tomarak High Up Multiverse, the biggest social innovation hub in northern Nigeria that is nurturing the next generation of disruptive innovators through a culture of collaboration and a core cooperation to become catalysts of progressive change in their communities. He's also leading the social media for good movement that has engaged more than 5,000 youth on how to use social media as an innovative tool for achieving the sustainable development goals. He is also a strong promoter of positive civic engagement and social responsibility through an ethnic of service and a concern for justice. He believes that it is the responsibility of every generation to create opportunities for the next generation to thrive and make the process of progressive change participatory, recognizing that each one of us need all of us and we should strive to work together in accord rather than in opposition. Mr. Ayuba has advocated for Nigerians to unite despite their diversity and create shared aims and values for this generation and the next. Ayuba and his team are currently working to spark new thinking and innovative action that will stimulate the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Nigeria into one of the greatest in the world. Friends from around the world, be inspired, folks. I have the single honor to welcome to the studios of Be Inspired Radio my good friend Job David Ayuba. Mr. Ayuba, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I am very well, thank you so much. I know it's about 8:43 p.m. in Nigeria, and thank you for staying up late to speak to us here in the United States. So to begin quickly, I know I read a long profile of you, but certainly not everything that I was able to cover. And so I want to give you an opportunity, Mr. Yuba, if you don't mind, to take 1 or 2 minutes of your time to tell us who you are and what you have been involved with and how far you've come with your work.
Okay, so my name again is David Ayuba, and I'm the founder of Tomruk iHub Multiverse. It's a social innovation hub in Nigeria, the biggest in northern Nigeria. We support startups and work with community stakeholders, groups, and organizations to drive and support transformational development, for the good and growth of humanity through our social media for social good conferences, trainings, and advocacy campaigns. I actually was a street boy in Lagos many years ago when I was 8 years old. So I grew up in a rehabilitation home, and looking at my background, I felt there was a need for us to put an end to such situations, and also help the disadvantaged communities with the necessary information that they need and the right environment that they need to become successful in life. So that's how I've been able to get to where I am right now.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that background. So again, just for those who don't know you, I know you had mentioned in your resume that you are one of the few fellows that was selected to join the President Barack Obama a leadership program. Tell me about it. How did this process happen, and how were you nominated and selected?
Yes, I applied for Young African Leaders Initiative Fellowship Program. That was last year. I think 2016. But I got into the program. It was actually done in Ghana. So I got into the program. It was a 1 month program which we did in Ghana, and that's how I became a fellow of Yali.
Nice, nice. Let me take this opportunity on behalf of the staff and management of Be Inspired Radio to congratulate you for your selection to be part of this youth leadership, which is spearheaded by the former president of the United States of America. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much.
Oh, great. So now let's go straight to our conversation today. We are talking about North Central Nigeria. Uh, Please, can you in a moment, just for the sake of people who are listening to you and just for your attention, we have 19,135 people listening to you from all over the world, from Australia to Zimbabwe. A lot of people are listening to you right now, and people are paying attention critically to the situation in North Central Nigeria. Now, you give us a background. What is the current situation in North Central Nigeria?
Yes, like you know, in North Central Nigeria, we have the issues of herdsmen killings, Fulani herdsmen killings. In the northeastern Nigeria, it's Boko Haram insurgency, but in North Central Nigeria, it's killing by Fulani herdsmen. And I mean, figures from the Human Rights Watch shows as of June 2018 that 1,078 people have died in the Middle Belt conflict. You know, over 169,000 people have been displaced internally. You know, 60% of those IDPs are young children. That is at least 102,000 children out of school as we speak. You know, this is in addition to 10.5 million out of school children existing in Nigeria as a whole before the crisis. And this has been confirmed by the permanent secretary of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Adamu Husseini, you know, who said that Nigeria has the highest out of school children in the world. This makes children education in Nigeria a top priority. And what makes the issue, the case in North Central Nigeria, a serious one is that we currently are harboring people who fled from the northeastern part of the country, people who fled from the Boko Haram insurgency. They are in the North Central right now. But then again, we are now having our own internally displaced persons in northeastern Nigeria. So you see that the problem we have here is very serious. And besides the massive displacement of people and destruction of properties, you know, and livelihoods in North Central Nigeria, there is now a heightened uncertainty, you know, and anxiety and lack of trust among those who are directly and indirectly affected. So our case is a very peculiar case in the crisis that is going on in Nigeria right now.
So one may ask, what is the actual concern? What is the problem statement, or the social problem that had caused crisis and destabilization in North Central Nigeria? Because the reason why I'm pushing you a little deeper into this conversation is that now people are listening to you from all over the world, and some may not necessarily be familiar other than what they know about Boko Haram, and otherwise they have no knowledge or no idea of what is the current situation in North Central at all. So if you can go a bit deeper, that would be great.
Okay, so you know there's desertification, for example, in the north right now. So the herdsmen are moving their livestock towards our parts because of greener pastures. We have, you know, we have grasses, rich, that are very rich, for their livestock. So they are moving towards this path. And the government has said that the people in the North Central or the people across Nigeria should give farmland to Fulani herdsmen for grazing their livestock. And the people have said they do not want to give their land to the Fulani herdsmen. It's a business they are running, so why should they just give them those lands? And the Fulani herdsmen have become very violent about the issue. They come into people's lands forcefully and graze those lands, and the farmers, and destroy the crops of the farmers. So that usually causes problems between the farmers and the herdsmen. And if the farmers take any action, the next thing you hear is a certain number of people have been killed. So this is the major issue. It's fight for resources. But in this case, it's the herdsmen who are coming to the people here and fighting them over their resources, asking them to forcefully give them their land, which is not fair. And people have been saying, if you are asking us to give our land to the Fulani herdsmen to graze their livestock, are you going to give us farmland in their own parts of the country to also farm our produce? So it's not a fair request, and the government hasn't done much about it. They do not hold anybody accountable for the killings, so the killings have continued unabated. But the killings have mostly been for land. And then there is also a demand for political offices. Some of these people are saying that they have been in this part of the country for a long time, that they should be giving political appointments, but that is not being done. So the killings is also a way of demanding for political appointments. Again, the people here in the North Central are also saying that, will you also give our people political appointments in the North, in the core North? They are not willing to do that. So again, our people are saying that's not fair, and it shouldn't be allowed to continue.
So, but then one will ask now, if this this hypothesis can be used. Now, if these individuals have lived in the community for that long, hundreds of years back, why is it difficult that the system can't integrate them into the system? Because if you lived in a place for over 100 years, technically you are part and parcel of the people. So, from your expertise and from your experience, why do you think that it's becoming a problem for the government to, as it were, to actually understand the conversation and also to integrate these individuals into the community?
Yes, one of the biggest challenges we have here in Nigeria is lack of trust. There is no trust among the different ethnic groups in Nigeria, because every ethnic group believes that the other ethnic group has an agenda. And you can see that in all our political systems, even in governance and all of that. You can see that from the kinds of appointments that the president makes, how he doesn't trust the other people from other parts of the country, but trusts people from his own part of the country. And people, for example, in the North Central or the Middle Belt, as we call it most times, will not want, for example, a Hausa Fulani man, yes, who has lived in Jos or Benue for 50 years to become the governor of that state because of that perceived agenda. Likewise, the people in Kano will not allow a person from the southwestern part of the country to become a governor in Kano, no matter how long he has lived in that part of the country, because of the past, because of this same perceived agenda. You get the problem? So there's this issue of trust currently in Nigeria. So people still feel that there's an agenda. And if you look at how bold these killings have been without any form of accountability, it becomes even riskier to fully integrate them into the system. Because these are people that are saying, even on national TV, that we will kill if we do not get this. And then the security agencies cannot do anything about it. How will you now open up your political system or the system of governance for these people to come in? And the president hasn't done much, hasn't done well himself, even as he became president, because of the kinds of appointments that he made. He further increased the level of mistrust among the people and caused more problems, because people are saying, why are you appointing people from the north into all heads, making them heads of all the security, most of the security agencies, and things like that. And this is one of the reasons why they lack the will to take action on this killing. So it's a serious problem.
Now, totally understand that, but my main concern, because the reason why I haven't moved forward with the conversation is because there are a lot of people listening, and most people are interested because I'm getting feedback from those listening to you. Now, from your own expertise and your experience, what do you think? What do you think that government should do in order to curb the problem? Because if I hear you clearly, government hasn't done much. Wrong people have been appointed into political offices, and yet these individuals are unwilling to let go, and they are threatening to ensure that the violence will continue until something is done. So why is government not having the political will to ensure that the actual crises are well addressed, and if it means even if it means that bringing them to a round table for dialoguing, what is your perspective on that?
Yes, again, you see, it's difficult for government because people don't even trust government. Most of the issues we are having right now is revolving around trust. People do not trust the government. So even if the government is calling people to a round table, government calls people to a round table sometimes with, it has already taken decision before even calling people for a round table discussion. You get the point now? So if the government is calling the people, the government needs to listen to the people. These are the people in the middle of this conflict. You have the Fulani herdsmen and you have the farmers. Okay, farmers, are you ready? Are you willing to give up your land to these Fulani herdsmen to graze their livestock? Yes or no? If the people say yes, that's a good thing. If the people say no, there is nothing you can do about it, because you continue to have problems if you forcefully take their land and give it to the herdsmen.
But in conflict
So the
management,
government has to look for.
but in conflict management, we don't necessarily have to, how do you call it? We don't necessarily have to win. It's all about compromising. And so, yes, you may have a land. Some people may have come to occupy the land. You need your land back. You don't have to win all the time in conflict management. It's a way of compromising for us to live in harmony. I am very sure that the people in the community have some way somehow have integrated. I mean, I'm sure there are people, the Fulani herdsmen, who are married to local indigenous people from North Central. So there are people who have naturally become family. And so if there's a large mistrust among government, what do you think about civil society organization like yours? What do you think about chiefs and community leadership? I'm sure they live in the community. They know themselves. And so why is it becoming difficult for them to reason and for them to come to the table? That's what I'm still trying to find, what the actual reasons are.
Okay, because partly, like I was saying, there is no, the government has not been able to communicate the benefits of giving grazing land to the herdsmen, to the people. Because the people are saying it should be mutually beneficial. But right now, they are seeing it as being beneficial to only one side. What is the compensation for them if they give up the land that they are supposed to use to farm to the Fulani herdsmen? It's not like they are leasing it. You are very correct when you said these people have lived together for several years. These people have married themselves. But now our leaders, especially government, are bringing different types of coloration into it. There is the political angle to this issue. There is the religious angle to this issue. So all of these are part of the reasons why the issue is so flared up and is becoming very difficult to solve. Again, when you bring people to the round table, you need to be able to tell both sides what they are going to benefit from that meeting. If you are not able to communicate that to the people, then there's always going to be a problem. Because the side that is not benefiting from that agreement will feel that you are not neutral with your decision. And nobody ever called the people to say, are you willing to give portions of your land to these people to graze their livestock? Government made that decision and tried to impose it on the people. But again, if you look at these issues, if you look at the history of Nigeria, we have always had issues of jihadist movement, of Muslims trying to conquer a particular part of, Nigeria, let's say Jos, Benue, and places like that. So you also have all of these memories coming back into this decision making. So again, there is lack of trust. People do not trust themselves. The ethnic groups do not trust themselves. And collectively, they do not trust government. So it makes it difficult for government to even call these people for a roundtable discussion. About 10 days ago, we had the U.S. ambassador send a team to visit our innovation hub here in Jos. And we had a very long conversation with them and looked at different areas of possible collaborations. And one of the things I've told them is, in matters like this, you have to look for neutral organizations to lead these kinds of conversations. You cannot let government lead these kinds of conversations, because if the decisions that they are going to reach at the end of the day does not favor that government, they are not going to take that decision. If it does not favor the political party in power, they are not going to take that decision. So you need to look for neutral organizations to lead these kinds of conversations, not necessarily government.
Got you. Great. So I think it's very clear. I have a better understanding, and our listeners also have a better understanding of exactly what you are commenting. Now, going forward now, so what is the current state of entrepreneurship ecosystem in that region? Because of all the things you've described, how has that impacted the entrepreneurship ecosystem in that region?
So, for example, during the last major crisis in a place called Riom, local government in Jos, Plateau State, where over 300 people were killed, that was about 2 months ago, I saw herdsmen moving their cattle, around town, trying to relocate because of fear of being attacked. Farmers cannot go to their farmlands and tend to their plants. Why? Because they are afraid of being attacked. A thriving ecosystem means, or is going to bring prosperity to the people. But there can't be prosperity without peace. And since this crisis has been lingering, hovering around the Middle Belt, it has been affecting the entrepreneurship ecosystem. I mean, right now, business is shut down before 7 p.m. So there's no nightlife. And you and I know that any city that doesn't have a nightlife cannot progress. There's no nightlife. The loss of farmland alone in this north central part of Nigeria is affecting the output of farm produce. But people are not seeing it from that perspective. Look at Benue, look at Adamawa, look at Plateau, look at Nasarawa, look at Kogi, look at all these states. This is where you have most of the food in Nigeria are grown. Most of the fruits in Nigeria come from Benue and Plateau State. Most of the vegetables come from Plateau State. So if the people in these places are afraid and cannot go out to farm, how do we expect to feed the country? So all of this has affected the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And again, the government in this part are not investing in local talent. I am based in Jos, and I can tell you with all authority that I have not found one investor in this city, somebody who is investing in local talent in this city. All the local talent either moved from Jos to Lagos, Abuja, or Port Harcourt, or get investors from those parts to do their businesses in Jos. So it's something else. The entrepreneurship ecosystem is declining, is weakening seriously at the moment. And we have been doing our best. We've been doing advocacy and encouraging people, telling them not to give up, on the North Central region.
Got you. Now, I have a
And
question.
let me also tell you something.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, you can ask the question.
Yes, so there's a question coming from Uganda, and this is coming from Peter in Uganda. And Peter's question to you is that I have listened to you carefully for the last 30 minutes, and you seem to be chastising government and the local government in Jos State or in Jos or in Plateau State, and you have still not been able to offer any substantive suggestion as to what the government should do in order to help resolve the crisis that you just described. Any thoughts from you?
Okay, so you want me to tell you what the government should do?
Well, that's a question that is coming from Peter in Uganda.
Okay, so we have talked about two things now. We have talked about insecurity, and we have talked about how that affects the entrepreneurship ecosystem. So the first thing that should be done is government needs to ensure that there is security in every part of the country. Our constitution declares that security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of the government, and that is subsection 2 of the fundamental objectives of state policy. Four, the government was neutral protecting people that are radicalized from killer and those who are supporting or funding killings. So far, only 5 people have been sentenced in Adamawa State since 2017, despite all the killings that you've been hearing. I have to talk about government because I have to mention government because government is in charge of all the security agencies at the federal level. We don't have state policing in Nigeria. So even if something happens in Plateau State, the commissioner of that state or the security apparatus in that state have to wait for a directive from the federal level for them to be able to act, for them to be able to take action. So government is in the middle of all of these things. And if you have been following what has been going on in Nigeria, 1 minute the government says, oh, they are not Fulani herdsmen, but they are herdsmen from other West African countries. Then another minute it says, no, you must give them this land. It's better to give up your land than for you to die. All of these things are documented. You can go on Channel TV and see all of this information. And this is the reason why people do not trust government. So the government must ensure there is peace, because without peace there is no prosperity. And that is the first role of government. And they have to tighten security at the borders. If they believe that these people are coming from other West African regions, they have to tighten security there and take action and end these killings instead of incessantly sympathizing with the victims. Now, these people have been displaced. Most of the CSOs and individuals and religious organizations have gone to these IDP camps to support the people morally and also give them different materials, clothing, food, medical attention, and so on and so forth. But who is going to rebuild the schools that have been destroyed in these places? Who is going to fix the hospitals in these places? Who is responsible for reintegrating all these internally displaced persons back to the society? It's the government. So the government needs to have a mechanism on ground that can solve most of these problems. And remember, these people need counseling. The CSOs do not have the capacity to solve all of these problems. Like I told you, the CSOs in the North Central right now are overwhelmed because they are having to deal with IDPs from the Northeast and deal with IDPs from the North Central. So it's an overwhelming situation. And as we are speaking right now, there is no intervention whatsoever from the federal government. So these are the things that government needs to do. Ensure there's security, rebuild the schools, get the people integrated back to society, empower these people with skills so that they can earn a living for themselves, fix the schools, counsel them. So I hope I've answered her question.
Yes, I think you did. You did very well. So the couple of questions are still coming in now. Now let me take you all the way to Melbourne in Australia, and this is coming from Robert in Australia. And Robert, question to you: he said, "Mr. Yuba, thank you for the great work you are doing and the innovation. Please tell me, how is your hub able to help address the crisis you just described few minutes ago?"
Okay, so let me give you one. So in 2015, for example, when Ban Ki-moon visited Nigeria, he was in Abuja, and we went to protest. We led the protest. You know, we wanted to let him know about the killings that was going on and why he should come, why the United Nations needs to intervene, and so on and so forth. But all the information, all the data that we'll be able to gather were not substantial enough. Why? Because when a killing happens, the people will cry, take the dead bodies, bury them, and continue crying without keeping records. So when we realized that this was what was going on, my team went into the community that was hit at that time, which is Riom local government, which is one of the places that is always being affected by these killings. And we brought together all the district heads and we taught them how to use WhatsApp for emergency reporting and collation of data. Very simple. We are an innovation hub. We are social innovators. So we just show you how to use the tools that you have on the ground, how to maximize the use of those tools. If there's a killing, take a picture, send it to the WhatsApp group. Say something about the killing. If you find any evidence, if you find a shoe, a machete, something around, take a picture, send it to the WhatsApp group. And there's a person in the King's Palace that is collating all that data. You record the kinds of wounds. Are they gunshot wounds? Are they machete wounds? Did they die by strangulation? What was the cause of death? Put all this data together so that when you are talking about the killings, you can back that up with data. We got the smartphones for all of them. So that's something we did, and we were hoping that if we had the right support, we would extend that to other areas in the state. But we were not able to do that. Then what we have been doing is we've been doing lots of advocacy Like this year, we had a conference called Out of Many One. We brought people together from government, from private sector, from academia and CSOs, to find a common ground critical for Nigeria's economic and social wealth. Because we know that at the heart of this problem is the fight for wealth. Whether it is land or whether it is appointment or whether it is what, it's all about wealth. So we bring people together in the community and we can to how we and people some
Got you. Got you. So great. So now, so we totally understand all the points that you were sharing, and how to take advantage of social networking and making it profitable to the benefit of the communities. And I totally agree with you from that standpoint. Now, having go forward with our conversation now. So, apart from your organization, what are the civil society organizations also doing on the ground? Because I know you are handling one aspect of the problem with a solution, but what about the other civil society organizations? What are they doing on the ground to help curb the problem?
Yes, civil society organizations have different interventions during the crisis, during the incident. Like I mentioned earlier, it provides relief materials for the displaced people, for the victims. They go there, they give them moral support. They have much possible to also hold government accountable for not taking action and ending the killing. Well, there's a limit in countries like Nigeria. There's a limit to what civil society organizations can do. Right now, there is no regard for the rule of law, and so the government, whatever the government does or whatever the government says, is what happens. For example, in there's a protest. People are angry about it and protested. They went to the government house, and the security people of the government house refused them entrance into the government house, refused them audience with the governor. And the people were angry. They jumped into the government house, and it became a serious problem. Because of that, the government banned all protests in the state. So the people cannot protest right now. And this is their fundamental human right. But they've been denied that fundamental human right, and nobody can do anything about it. So right now, the protest can happen in a place like Plateau State, and nobody is holding the government accountable. The international community is really mounting pressure on these people. And the international community has presence in most of these states. So you see, it can be, what is the right word of use now? It can be very discouraging for CSOs if they are trying to make something happen, but they cannot hold government accountable, and there is no pressure from the international community to help them do their work better. So, I don't know. There are so many NGOs and well-meaning civil society organizations, but again, some of them need direction on how to help these vulnerable groups, the children and the women. So we are also looking at ways, to bring stakeholders and experts together to see how we can also help these civil society organizations do their work better, because we believe that the CSO is in a better position to rebuild trust among the people in this region.
Thank you very much. A question coming from Joseph in Liberia, and Joseph' question to you is that so what is the actual role of the the embassies, because you had mentioned in your conversation that the government, the U.S. ambassador came to visit your hub. Now, what is the role of the embassies and the commissions in those regions, and what have they contributed towards the management of the crisis in that region?
So, well, during the visit of the Charge of the Affairs, David Young, the political officer, Jake Goodman, and Bella, one of the things they mentioned, what they've been doing in northeastern Nigeria is they've been assisting some of the IDPs. I think about 2 million directly, about 15 million or thereabouts indirectly. They've been, supporting them with food, clothing, and things like that. And they've also been trying to see how they can help them, help them start small enterprises and so on and so forth. But what they've been doing in this part is, I think they've tried to be part of the reconciliation process. I've been following some of their work in Jos and North Central, other parts of North Central Nigeria, but that has been one of the things they've been doing. But what I've told them to do is to copy what the OGP is doing. The OGP, which is Open Government Partnership, is the framework that is being used to actualize the Sustainable Development Goals. I was part of the team that developed an action plan for the Kaduna State government. And what the OGP did was to bypass the federal government and possibly in most cases the state government, but work directly with local organizations who are on the ground doing work, because we have realized that that is the fastest way to get results. There's too much bureaucracy in government. Nigeria, for example, it's not that Nigeria doesn't have the money to fix its problems, but it's just that Nigeria does not have a direction on how to make that happen, and there is little or no pressure from the international community to make Nigeria spend those monies in the right places. So I think the embassy, we suggested to them that they work with these organizations on ground directly. If they have to bypass the federal government or the state government to make things happen, they have to do that. Because before you wait for decision, the federal government and the state government to make decision on a matter, people have been killed. Before the police people have been killed.
But that will be a total illegal, because for diplomatic reasons, international organizations will always have to go through government in order for the agenda to be met. Don't forget about that, because if you bypass government and its institutional mechanism, and you start dealing directly with civil society organizations on the ground, you are creating a diplomatic blunder. But having said that, I have another question that is coming in from Abuja, and it's coming from Olushendu, and Olushendu say that thank you so much for sharing some perspective about North Central with us. I have been to North Central many times, and I totally agree with all the points that you are sharing on the show. My question to you is that, what do you think is the fundamental cause of all this problem? I know you have earlier on make references to Fulani herdsmen, but is that really the fundamental problem? Don't we have an underlying cultural problem or political problem as well? What is your perspective?
Yeah, I've mentioned some of those things earlier, but again, the fundamental problem is a fight for wealth. That's the fundamental problem. It's a fight for wealth. It is land in the middle of all of these crises. And land is also wealth. And it's a fight for give me land, I don't want to give you land, give me land, I don't want to give you land. That's all. But people are now using different mediums to make sure that there's crisis in this part. There is like I said, the political angle to it. There's the religious angle to it. There's the ethnic angle to it. The ethnic angle is not so much of a big deal because for so long we have been living, I mean, these people have been living together. For so long, they've been living together. But it is now that the government is saying, give your land to these people, and the people are not willing to give their land. And again, I want us to look at it from the perspective of the people. Let's empathize with them. The people are saying, if you want us to give you our land to raise your livestock, will you give us your land in the north to farm? Will you do that? So, again, people are asking for equity. And I'm of the opinion that government needs to be fair in whatever decision it is making. It needs to be neutral and make sure that whatever decision it is making is beneficial to everybody. As a nation, that is the only thing that can make us stand as a nation. The moment you are favorable or more favorable to a particular ethnic group, then there's going to be problems. And then to your issue, to your concern raised about illegality or legality of the embassies working with local organizations directly, already they have the kind of things to make things happen. For example, they have grants which they give. They do not need the permission of state governments to give grants to start off to solve some of these problems or to come up with local solutions to some of these problems. They can make that happen, but with certain understanding. The Tony Elumedu Foundation, in partnership, I don't know, with, the German government or so, empowered 200 people in northeastern Nigeria. Express grants. Why? Because they wanted to stimulate the entrepreneurship ecosystem and encourage these people to come up with solutions to their problems, which is a sustainable way of solving the problems in those parts of the country. Why can't similar things happen in the North Central? So these are some of the things that we are saying we should make happen, not that we are asking them to do something that is not illegal. They have the capacity to do some of these things.
Got you. Thank you for sharing that perspective. This is coming from the neighboring country, Togo, and it's coming from Kofi from Togo. And Kofi says that, yes, I understand all the points that you are sharing, and I strongly believe that the fundamental problems need to be looked at in details in order that the North Central peace process can help. Now, my question to you, and this is again from Kofi, my question to you, Job, is that you talked about socio-economic challenges in the region. As a community, what has the community done by itself to help alleviate the poverty situation in the North Central region?
What has the community itself done?
That's right.
Okay, so for example, we are a community, and one of the things that we've done, like here, we know that we are not, the North Central is not like Lagos, the southwestern part of the country, or the northern part of the country, and all those other regions, or the southeastern part of the country where there's so much money in circulation, we have thriving economies, and so on and so forth. So what have we been doing here? We have been building networks and leveraging, and we are asking people to leverage on each other's experiences, knowledges, networks, and so on and so forth to make things happen for themselves, to make the entrepreneurship ecosystem thrive. And we've also been encouraging communities to develop themselves. And again, we are also empowering them with information. Like we have a hub. Every week we hold strategic business sessions for small businesses and aspiring businesses where they come, they learn new information. Those that have already started their businesses, we give them more information to take their businesses to the next level. That way, we are empowering them, they are empowering their communities. And we also encourage them to do businesses among themselves. So at some certain level, these are the things that communities can do. But again, we have to bring government on board. What is the role of government in making sure that whatever the community does becomes successful? Basic things like power, internet, good roads, ease of doing business. Those are government roles. But government cannot even make those things happen. Running a business, go and ask any Nigerian, running a business in this country is one of the most difficult things that can happen to anybody. It's as if the system is designed to make sure that you are not successful. Everything you do is difficult. The government is not even seeing it that if they make it easy for you to do business, it's to their own advantage. Because you are going to pay your tax, and you pay your tax, you do not try to evade tax. You know, all of these things. So the government is not looking at it from that perspective. So the community has its role, yes, so they have their role. The private sector has its role, the academia has its role, the government has its role. And we have to also look at the policies. And for the scientists that has the policy. So we can do it best, but the sector not complementary to what it is doing. It's difficult for it to.
Thank you very much. And folks, I know you are excited. You are bringing more questions. Fortunately, our time is up. We've already spoken for an hour. Our time is up. But before we go, one more question, which is coming from Jos State, is coming from Yaro. And Yaro says that, my brother from Jos, how are you? My question to you is that you kept saying government, government, government. Who is government? Are you also not government? Are we all not government? So you kept making government, and I'm getting confused, as if government is an entity separated from us. So what is your clarification of your reference to government? Thank you.
Okay. So when I say government, I'm sure we all know in what context government. The people can say yes, we are government, but when I say government, I mean all the institutions that are on ground to make some of these things happen. For example, sometimes, and it's because government has failed. That's why people are not being able to separate between government and the people. There is actually government and there is the people. Yes, there are the people in government, but government is an institution that is separate. Normally in Nigeria, normally in any country, citizens, you are not supposed to be worried about your security. You should not be the one providing security for yourself. You should not be the one drilling boreholes to provide water for yourself. You should not be the one to be thinking of how to provide power for yourself. These are responsibilities of government. You cannot make that happen because you are not government. There are policies, there are laws. It's government that makes some of these things. If there's a killing in a particular place, I cannot get up and ask the commissioner of police to act or send his men to go and end the killing in that particular place. It's government that will do it. And what is government? Government is all the procedures. Government is all the institutions that make things happen. So there's a limit to what we can do. Yes, we can influence government, which is what we should be doing. We should hold government accountable. We should hold people occupying all these positions, people heading all these institutions accountable. But when there is no rule of law, like I mentioned earlier, how can you make that happen? The least that the people can do is to come out and even protest peacefully. But right now, that fundamental right is taken away from them. So are you government? If you are government, can you lift that ban, how are you going to lift the ban? So I'm sure he understands what context we are talking about.
Thank you very much. Uh, Folks, I just want to thank all of you for staying up with us and enjoying the conversation. It was indeed a beautiful conversation on how the crisis in the North Central is threatening the democracy in Nigeria and destroying the entrepreneurship of the ecosystem in North Central Nigeria. And as you guessed, my guest was Job David Ayuruba, who is a fellow of the Barack Obama Youth Leadership Program. I'm so grateful that David, you avail yourself for this wonderful conversation. It's beautiful, and we thank you a lot. Before we leave, we'll give you an opportunity to give up your wrap up recommendation as a way of concluding our conversation. So back to you if you want to speak to the audience directly and give them your last word.
Okay, as much as these problems are daunting, I still know that the Nigerian people are very resilient and they are positive minded. You but again, we must understand that Nigerians have short attention span and they can easily get distracted by government. But there's a need for us to coordinate efforts to solve some of these problems. And what I'm hoping and what I keep telling people to do is we need to focus on things like voter education, specifically targeting the youth and the new voters not to sell their votes using the social media platform already created, as well as a working democracy central to sustainable development. We also need to do, like the CS, we need to do a survey of out-of-school children and youth, and education opportunities should be made available to them. We need to train NGOs. We need to train the CSOs and the FDA. We need to track IDPs and engage them in productive and gainful activities. Most of them are just in these IDP camps doing nothing. And we have to sustain advocacy for government and those coming into new government to attend to the problem of public education in Nigeria, especially in this North Central part. The North Central part is the line between Christianity and Islam in Nigeria. And that is why you always have this heightened tension and problems here. We have to sustain pressure on the government to stop the killings of innocent people, especially the people in the middle belt, farmers in the middle belt. And this can only be done if international organizations, from wherever they are, mount this pressure on government or support CSOs in Nigeria to mount pressure on government and sustain their advocacy. So I want everybody to be a part of solving this problem, because if we do not solve it, I mean, even you guys in the United States, you are going to have an increased number of refugee seekers. So it affects everybody. It's not a North Central problem. It's not a Plateau State problem. It's not just a Nigeria problem. It's a global problem. If Nigeria breaks, it affects everybody. So it's our responsibility to make sure there's peace in this region.
All right, folks. You've just heard Job David Ayuba, who is a social innovator and a fellow of the Barack Obama Youth Leadership Initiative. Job, once again, on behalf of the staff and the management of the Inspired Podcast Network, I am very grateful for your time. Enjoy the rest of your evening with your family, and we'll connect again shortly. God bless you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Welcome to Weekend Night Live, hosted by Samuel Jacobs Abbey, where we play music, talk shows, and interviews on Be Inspired Podcast Network. Stay tuned and keep your dial on www.beinspiredpodcast.com. Don't forget to stay connected, be inspired, be unique, and be different.